If you're looking for a new camera which is good on budget as well as performance, then watch this review all the way till the end. This is not a technical review, so we will not be talking about a lot of numbers and specs and jargons, but we will talk about some features this camera comes with. We've owned this camera for almost 2 months now. We have shot about 4 weddings and roughly 6 different shoots just with this particular camera. Our favorite feature for this particular camera would be the autofocus. According to Sony, this is one of the fastest focusing camera in this particular price range. We've tried this camera for weddings. We have tried it for smaller shoots in bright daylight, even in the evening when the light was not too high. The focus every time was amazing, was spot on. The best part is the real-time eye focus. Unlike the previous version of this camera, which is the A6400, where you have to press a button to lock onto the eye, this camera does it automatically. So let's say if you're shooting a subject and you're making a video or you're doing a photo shoot, the camera will automatically lock onto the eye of the subject. The moment they'll turn, or if the eye is not visible to the camera, it will still track the body, which makes things really easier because the moment the eye comes back, it is automatically tracking it. So all your shots are in focus and you don't get that blurry out of focus shots. There has been a lot of changes which they have made to from the previous version of this camera with the A6300. The biggest is the processor. They are using the Bion's X processor, which is way more efficient than the previous one, and it helps in overcoming a lot of issues which we had with the previous version. The biggest was the heating issue. In our tests, we got an overheating sign in about an hour and 20 minutes of using this camera, unlike the previous version where it will heat up in about 20 minutes and then shut down. This camera showed the signal but did not shut down, so we were still able to record for longer. And that brings us to the next feature of this camera, which is the continuous recording more than 30 minutes. Most of your DSLRs will not record more than 30 minutes. That means you have to restart your recording every 30 minutes to have a longer video. We shoot a lot of weddings, especially the cultural weddings where the ceremonies could be longer than an hour. We never used the 6300 or the 6500 for longer videos. The battery performance of this camera has improved significantly because of the new processor. They still use the older the NPF-W50 batteries, which is the same battery used in 6300, 6500, the Alpha 7 R1 and 2. The same battery gives you 20% more as compared to the 6300 or 6500, which is amazing. The menu system in this camera is quite intuitive. If you are new to Sony, it might take you a few days to get used to it, but once you're handy with this, it's quite easy. You have an option for My Menu where you can customize it to whatever features you need. With the custom buttons, it makes it easier, so you can customize your camera layout as per your use. We use the custom buttons quite often. Just it makes it easier for us to shoot and find the features which we need quite easily. Let's talk about the form factor for this camera. If you want a camera which you can travel with easily and you can, it's not that big like a traditional DSLR, then this is quite nice. It's small, it's easy to handle. It comes with the dust protection as well as the weather sealing, so if in case you're shooting and there's a bit of drizzle, you will be fine using this camera in that. This is the first Sony camera which actually comes with a flip-up screen, just like this. Unfortunately, it doesn't open on the side, but in the front. So a lot of the time, if you're using a microphone for recording, you will not be able to use the screen properly. But again, there is an easy hack. You can use a cage and connect your microphone on the side, so it's easier for you to handle it. We've tried making videos with the screen up, and it's quite handy. When you're looking at the screen, you're pretty much looking at the top of your lens, so you're always looking at the lens. It doesn't feel like you're looking on the side. The screen itself is quite bright. It doesn't dim itself when you're recording, which the previous cameras used to do. With this, it is very bright. We've shot outside in bright sunlight, and we had no issues whatsoever framing our shots by looking at the screen directly instead of using a cover. Let's talk about the image quality for this camera. This is a 24 megapixel camera, and I think it's more than sufficient unless you are a studio shooter where you are shooting, you need a lot of details with like fashion and product. But otherwise, like if you're a wedding photographer or if you're just taking photos with this one, you should be fine with the 24 megapixels. It's quite sharp. The quality of the images were really nice. The best part is the color sense. They have improved on the color sense for this particular camera, which is very similar to the 7 IIIs and the 7 R3s. If you're using multiple cameras for like different angles, it makes it easier for you to match it later. For the video quality, 6400 can shoot a 4K video. The best part is it actually records a 6K video and then shrink it down to a 4K, by which you get better quality, more sharpness, more details, and you get a way better low light performance as well. A lot of your noise is taken care of. You get really good results if you are shooting anywhere below ISO 3200. When you go over the 3200 limit, you do get a lot of grain, but again, it's not that bad. It is still usable. This time Sony has added the HLG picture profile along with the S-Log and Cine 4 to this camera as well, which makes it a lot easier for us to match our footage from this camera with the other footage which we get from our 7 III or 7 R3. HLG is quite nice if you're trying to get a cinematic look for your footage, which makes it a lot easier in post-production as well. The other good feature about the 6400 is the inbuilt time-lapse function. Earlier we used to have an app with the 6300 to record a time-lapse, but now it's inbuilt. It's quite handy to have a feature like this because we use time-lapse for a lot of our B-rolls to show the location and stuff like that. So it's quite handy to have it in your camera. The biggest con in this camera would be the lack of image stabilization or the inbuilt image stabilization for this camera. You cannot use this camera handheld and still get a very stable footage. It is better if you put this on a tripod, monopod, or even on a gimbal. But again, if you have a lens with image stabilization, it will definitely affect your video. Your video will be more stable and less shaky, even handheld. But again, we recommend that you use it on a monopod, tripod, or on a gimbal. For video shooters, the biggest drawback I think would be the lack of the microphone. It's not required if you are vlogging. You will not record yourself with headphones on. But again, if you're using it for recording wedding ceremonies or events, then definitely a headphone will be quite handy to monitor the audio coming from the camera. So that was our review for the Alpha 6400. If you like it and you think this was any help, then comment below and subscribe to our channel. This is the first time we've made a review video, so please leave your comment and feedback in the comments below. That will be a motivation for us. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.